all you have to do is click that link and knock. Joe should let you in if he's not technologically illiterate. You'll be good to go.
Thank you.
Wes, how are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
I'm glad to
So
hear
Gerald
it.
here. Nick is, I don't know if you heard, Nick is making us dinner.
Well, that's fantastic. He deserves a break. I've been watching
He
him
does.
yesterday. He's been, he's nonstop, that guy.
Oh man, he's intense, dude. He's too much.
Yeah.
But we had a bit of an eventful afternoon, and I don't know if you heard of any of the stories of that, but we got it together. We're here now. Livestream for the Cure is rolling. We're actually approaching 5,000, which is amazing. We're at 4718 right now.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, and I know you're here, Punt Up Tumor Talk, and you were here last year. Talk to us a little bit, man. Tell us what's going on, brother.
Well, it's obviously an absolute pleasure to be back and returning this year. For those who don't know who I am, I don't know if you guys did an intro. I had you guys muted so there wouldn't be feedback. My name is Wes Wilson. I'm a tumor immunologist and cancer researcher at the University of Pennsylvania, where I work developing new immunotherapies for hard to treat cancers. So everything from mesothelioma, which is a universally fatal cancer, normally associated with asbestos, and also things like multiple myeloma, which is a cancer of the blood and the bone marrow. So my work, I've been running clinical trials. COVID has had a lot of things on lockdown, but cancer research has been plugging ahead. We've been pushing forward, trying to treat our patients. So no rest for the wicked, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, it's an amazing thing you're doing, and it's impressive that you fit in here with live stream for the cure. Because I mean, what are we talking about here, right? So obviously you fit really well with what we're doing, and could be a resource to people that might have questions or whatever. What did you have planned for us for the next hour? What are you going to be doing, brother?
Oh, we got three big things we're gonna be doing for you guys. The first is we'll be answering your cancer questions. Cancer, immunotherapy. You put it in the chat. We're gonna be answering it right here live for you. So if you have any questions about that. Second, we have this amazing returning guest all the way from Toronto, Canada, fresh off her new album release, the immensely talented Sandra Boza. Just like last year, she's going to play a little song. So if you guys donate and type in what song you want of hers, she's got 5 that she'll tell you about. They're also going to be rotating on our screen somewhere at the same time. So in case you forget, she'll play a song. And lastly, we have these really cool stickers. So I have a YouTube channel, Tumor Talk, little plug for you there. And our Patreon subscribers, our Patreons get these stickers, these cool little Tumor Talk stickers. But especially for this event, my friend Anna from Lifomic, where I do some cancer outreach work at Lifomic as well, she designed the special logo for us. These are limited edition. Only 8 of these were printed. On this stream,
Wow.
the top 4 people who donate the most during our hour, I personally am going to mail you one of these. Limited edition Tumor Talk stickers for the top 4 people who donate during the stream.
That's awesome. She designed those.
She did. Fantastic. She's a great little artist. She's in the United Kingdom. I wish I had her link ready so I could send it out, but I forgot.
That's okay. We'll drop it down in the chat whenever Dan gets back to work over there.
Nice.
Well, that's all. Well, that's awesome, man. Chris Handy, thank you for the sub. All right, so I'm gonna let you do your thing. I'll be here at least till Nick gets back if you need me. But go ahead and take the reins, man. Do your thing, and you're able to see the chat, right? If
I can see the
pop up
chat.
there?
Yep.
All right, so I'll let you do your thing, man. And if you need me, just holler, okay?
Will do. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Enjoy your dinner.
Of course.
All right, guys. So here we are. So I'll just introduce the gang again. I introduced Sandra Bozo already in the middle. Wave, Sandra. There you go. We also have joining us this year, again, all the way across the ocean from Spain, is the brilliant Stratford alum actor and Toronto director, Jennifer Stewart. Thanks, Jen.
Hi, everyone.
So we're really excited to have you guys here so we can kind of get into all this amazing things. And of course, the thing we have to kind of start with is we kind of talked about how we're going to be fundraising, which is fantastic. But we also want to talk about why we're here. It's kind of an important fact. And this kind of brings us to cancer, right? So 1 in 2 people are expected to get cancer in their lifetimes. So if not you directly, then certainly someone you love or care about. There's over 1.8 million new cancer cases in the United States alone every single year. And over 600,000 people will die from this disease in a single year in 2020. That was kind of the stats from the National Institute of Health, and American National Cancer Institute. So what does this mean for us? This means it's something that we have to really combat together. We have to come together because it's a disease that really does impact all of us. So we'll kind of be talking about kind of those sort of things as we go forward. I mean, I know I personally have, I have family members who've had cancer, who've battled cancer. It is a terrible, terrible set of diseases. I think one thing that a lot of these institutes are currently pushing is this idea of life after cancer. Cancer is no longer this lethal disease. It's not a world life-ending kind of disease anymore. And so one of the things we do like to kind of talk about is kind of this increase in survivalship. So one of the things now this graph you're seeing on your screen now is from Cancer Research UK, but these stats scale for here in North America as well, is over the last, since the 1970s, you're seeing a huge increase in cancer survivalship. So that's good news. That's good things. But we can go farther. We can go more, and we can do that with immunotherapy. Jen, what do you know about immunotherapy?
Nothing.
Not a thing?
I mean, no, actually. Immunotherapy, I can guess it has to do with your immune system. But maybe you could explain what that is, Wes.
Oh, I definitely can do that. So immunotherapy is any sort of therapy that uses the body's own immune system to kind of get the task done. So in cancer immunotherapy, it's getting the immune system to attack cancer. But in HIV, it would be getting an HIV vaccine, which are currently in the works, by the way. We're not quite there yet, but it's there. It would be the same kind of thing. Vaccines are a type of immunotherapy. And there are cancer vaccines, which are really, really exciting things, especially for things like brain tumors, GBMs. But there's also other kinds of immunotherapy. There are things called checkpoint blockade immunotherapy, which I'll get to because I think is a really, really cool thing. And there's also another type called basically adaptive immune or CAR T cell therapy. CAR stand for chimeric antigen receptor. And these things are just really cool. I think I told you about CARs before at one point back in the...
Yeah, you did.
Do you remember anything about them?
I do not know.
That's okay.
That's why I come to you with all my science questions. Because I'm a musician.
Yeah, fair enough. So CAR immunotherapy, this is actually what most of the clinical trials I'm working on right now deal with. And what we do is we take the patient's blood in the same way you'd give blood from your arm, if you're getting a blood test or, donating blood, and we separate and take out all those sort of T cells, these special immune cells called T cells. They're really, really good at detecting things that are different and killing those kind of cells. They're like the killer cells. You ever go watch on Netflix? If you ever see Cells at Work, that TV show, that guy's always stabbing everything? That's like a T cell. So what we do is we take those T cells and we reprogram them. So we teach them how to see and recognize cancer. And once we've done that, we grow them up in big vats using like hormones, growth hormones, good media, like going to the gym and jacking yourself up on like getting like a good workout, so they'll get a lot of them. We put them back into the patient, and then those cells circulate around the body, and everywhere they find the cancer cells, they kill them. It's really, really cool new therapy. For some cancers, it works really, really well. Like B-cell lymphoma is pretty good. In multiple myeloma, though, currently, there's a couple different people trying to work on this. We're one of them. We get good responses, but all the patients eventually relapse. So we call this the response isn't durable. And that's one of the reasons why we need to keep focusing on research. We're close at unraveling. We're trying to figure out why these patients are relapsing, why it's just failing. And just augmenting this therapy a little bit could be the difference between, a 5-year survival rate, 30% versus a 5-year survival rate of 80%. So, that jump can happen. And we've seen those kind of jumps with immunotherapy in the last 10 years in other diseases. Melanoma has been a fantastic example for checkpoint blockade immunotherapy, hugely increasing survival. So this isn't like some sort of like huge pipe dream or anything. There's a real cause for hope with these diseases. And I think hopefully that'll be one thing we can get to in the next 40 minutes is that, Jen.
And would this replace chemotherapy?
This will work.
Is that something?
So most of these therapies should work alongside traditional treatments. And that's a great thing you brought up, because one of the things we're seeing in a lot of clinical trials is we didn't know this at the time, right? We have these chemotherapies that maybe damage the DNA of cancer cells, and they, that's the primary function. We can study them in microscopes. But we're seeing that all these therapies have always had an immune component. There was always an immune component to how chemo worked. There was always an immune component to how radiotherapy worked. We just didn't fully understand it. And now that we do, these therapies are being augmented by immunotherapy, and they're working a lot better. So there was a great trial that just completed by my former boss, Dr. Anna Nowak, in Australia on mesothelioma using checkpoint blockade immunotherapy, given at the same time as cisplatin pemetrexate, which are 2 chemotherapy drugs. Amazing results. We have not seen results like this ever. Previously, especially this is true of a lot of clinical trials, new treatments are usually given as like 3rd-line therapy, like patient does one therapy, and then there's like 2nd-line therapy, and then they relapse, and then it's like, okay, time for a trial. By then, you're giving checkpoint, it wasn't having really good results. My boss did it in tandem, and it's absolutely amazing results. I'm so proud of Anna. She recently won the Warner Medal. Amazing scientist, physician. I don't know how she juggles everything, but she does her clinical trials. She has her patients. She has PhD students she supervises. She does it all. But yeah, it's really cool stuff.
Thank you.
All right, let's see what we got. If you're being, someone in the Siege TO asks in the chat, if you are being treated for cancer, should you get the COVID vaccine? That is an amazing question, and we made a video about this on the Tumor Talk channel. You 100% should. So what we do know, and this is something hopefully you guys are aware, is that COVID disproportionately has impacted the cancer community. This is because those who've had cancer or history of cancer or currently have cancer are immunocompromised. And so they are more likely to get COVID, and they are statistically more likely to have adverse effects, such as death and other severe ICU administrations. So we are highly recommending that people with a history of cancer or with cancer get vaccinated. Now, we do know that immunocompromised individuals are less likely to get immunity, to develop immunity with the vaccine. This is because you don't have your immune system, basically. We don't know the real numbers of cancer patients yet, but in March, a really interesting paper came out with transplant recipients, so people who got kidneys and hearts and things, who are also immunocompromised because they're taking immunosuppressants, so they don't reject their new organs. And I think it was, if I remember correctly, about 17% of them developed immunity after getting their 2nd dose of the vaccine. So if you extrapolate it over to cancer, it's really good to get the COVID vaccine because some protection is better than none, right? So if you can get protection, you might as well because you're at higher risk. But you still have to behave as if you're not vaccinated. So the CDC, the CDC's changed the rules on masks and guidelines for double vaccinated people. If you have cancer and you're vaccinated, you still have to be really careful. That's kind of what our take-home message is of this. Yes. So RK Lounge has asked, actually, is it possible I could trade off chat reading duty to somebody? Jen, maybe? Or has anybody got the Twitch chat open?
Sure.
Other than me? So I'm not always like looking down.
I can read them out to you too if you want, Wes, if that makes it easier.
Definitely.
Jen's got it, but thank you for offering. I'll read out this one and Jen can switch to the next ones. So RK Lounge asks, can you explain more in detail about how chemo relies on immunotherapy? Sure can. So basically, let's say you had a solid tumor. Well, let's say you had breast cancer and chemotherapy is given. It's a systemic therapy. Toxic chemo kills these cancer cells, right? So the cancer cells die, usually when they're metabolically active. When those cells die, their debris is exposed. This causes an inflammation, immune response. So you get all these cells come in to kind of like clean up the dead cells. This is true if you have a cut on your finger, right? The immune system's going to rush in, get inflammation. There's cells in your body called dendritic cells. They are a type of immune cells. They start picking up all this debris. They notice that this debris looks a little different. Tumors and cancers in general have a high mutation burden, and these mutations can manifest and they kind of, their physical, what this looks like is that their proteins look a little differently. And the dendritic cells are like, hey, this looks different. And they're really keen at finding differences. Like they want to find viruses, bacteria, fungus, anything that doesn't look normal. These cells scoop them up and they recruit T cells into the tumor microenvironment. And when these T cells come in and the dendritic cells are like, hey, look at this thing, it looks weird. The T cells are like, oh yeah, okay, that's weird. I'll go kill anything that looks like that. Now these T cells are there and they're primed to attack other cancer cells. So some of that tumor that shrinks is from the chemo, and then you get more shrinkage because the immune system is in there activating and attacking and killing more cancer cells. But it couldn't see the cancer cells until the chemo destroyed them. And radiation works the same, has the exact same effect. We call these bystander effects. When you have these kind of off-target kind of additional anti-tumor effects. So in radiation, that will be cell death of the tumor, exactly the same way as chemo. But also radiation has the added benefit of helping fix the vasculature of tumors. Tumors are very hypoxic, and they just have crazy vasculature and blood veins in them, and arteries and capillaries. And that can make it really hard for immune cells to get in. It can make it hard for chemotherapy to get there because the chemotherapy travels by your vascular system through your bloodstream. So if the tumors have bad vasculature, chemo won't get there. But radiation can change and modulate and fix that vasculature, which can allow immune cells to migrate in and like kill more cells. So it kind of works the same way. Great question, by the way, RK Lounge. Really appreciate that.
Wes, we had a few donations come in, which are really cool. So Jason gave us $5. Thank you so much, Christiani. $12.69. Sandra gave us a $25 donation, and we just had another one come in for like $77. I missed the name on it. You guys are killing it. We're up to $48.39. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to give a little update there. Thank you guys so much for the donations. It really means the world.
Yeah, thank you so much. Especially, I think that was Carmel who donated at 77 from Australia, if I got that name correctly, as it popped up quick. Thank you so much for that donation. Really appreciate it. Yeah. I see another question in the chat. Jen, do you want to read this one out?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Where are these questions?
That's okay.
It's not coming up in my YouTube chat.
No, it's in the Twitch. It's in Twitch. If anyone is still on our YouTube channel, look in the description on the YouTube channel. Click the link to Twitch. Everything's happening in Twitch. You donate on Twitch. If you want one of these sexy stickers, you can't get one unless you're on the Twitch channel. Come to the Twitch channel. I know not all my friends have Twitch, but
I've switched to Twitch.
There you go.
Now I can read the questions. Connecting to chat.
I still can't see the question.
Lounge,
I'm on Twitch and I can't see the question.
Thank you, RK Lounge. Yeah, so in those regards, those are really interesting kind of features. So I'll just read out this next one. This one's from CYNE. I'm not pronouncing your name right, but you know who I'm talking about. Wes, do you know my boy Ben Bevich, known him from Army, in gene therapy program at Perelman School of Medicine? I don't know Ben, actually. Sorry. Do you know? Does he work on cancer as well in gene therapy? You can hit him up and see if he knows me. I'm on the 8th floor. I'm part of the Center for Cancer Cell Immunotherapies, the 8th floor in Perelman. I don't know if he's where he's at in the gene therapy program. But gene therapy is also a great therapy for many things. I mean, diabetes, you name it, right? Multiple sclerosis. Yeah, do that. Tell them to look me up. I'm in the building. I'm around. I'm on Twitter at Wesley Wilson. You can just sort of ping me there. Yeah. So I think I'll tell you guys a little bit about checkpoint blockade. So let's say, Jen, let's say, you're having a party at your house. And you tell your friends, hey, tell your friends to come bring some friends too. Like it's going to be a big party. I just bought a new house. I want, COVID's over, theaters open up. I want to have a big party to celebrate theater opening. What would you do to make sure that only invited guests came from friends? If people just started showing up and you wanted to know if this was someone who was really invited by a friend of yours or if it was a stranger.
I guess I would ask my friends to only bring people that they know and not or that it was sort of invite only. And then if there was someone I didn't recognize at the party, I would go up to them and say, hey, what's your name? I'm the host. Who do you know? But that's a tricky question. I mean, I live in a condo, so it is easy to sort of regulate that because you only buzz in the people that you know or friends of friends. But I don't know what the protocol is going to be like for that kind of stuff after all this is over, when we're on the other side.
Oh, I know,
What
right?
would you
Normal
suggest?
life. Well, I think there's a couple. One might be like a secret password, like hey, if Jen asks you at the door, if you like know anybody there, say like watermelon or something. Like some a code word might help or something. I don't know. Maybe a secret handshake.
I mean, do you ask people to wear masks, like, at your party?
That's a good point. Gotta keep that social distance if you're not double vaxxed.
We've got another question. If you'd like to read, if you would like me to read it.
Yeah, we'll come back to this analogy after. Go for it.
Oh, sorry, you brought in a... I lost track of what we were talking about because I was reading the questions.
It's good. Gotta read the questions.
All right, CHTO has another question. On the Canadian Cancer Society website, it has an interesting graphic about things that cause preventable cancers. But they have two things that are very similar: physical inactivity and sedentary behavior. What is the difference in those two causes of preventable cancers?
Great question. So that kind of comes back to like preventable cancer. So I'm going to put up a little thing up here. And again, this is American data. This number changes depending on your country and the things that can cause cancer in your country. So in the United States, they think about 4 in 10 cancers. So 40% of cancers can be avoided. I disagree with some of the things on this list because I don't think everything's as avoidable as they like to pretend it is. But definitely one of the things you will see is being active and not. And so the negative correlation of that is not being sedentary. And those are different things. And so that's a great question for understanding kind of the differences between those things. This is now the graph up here now is for the Canadian Cancer Society. So maybe this is one of the ones you're talking about. And it's a really interesting point to point out. So here's how it kind of works. Being active is really good for things like, for a lot of things, cardiovascular disease, but it's also good for helping your muscles grow and being active and staying healthy for cancer. So a lot of things we know that can help build up for cancer. Being active is good. So let's say you played soccer, once a week. That's good. You're active. Let's say you go for a run every day. Great, you're active. But just because you've gone for a run, if you sit down or lie in your bed for the next 20 hours of the day, being sedentary, lying still is also not good for your health. And this has been linked to various forms of cancer. But one of the, I think, easiest ways to kind of explain it, because I think a lot of people may not have the same, just an understanding of how this works physiologically speaking. And that is, so we have our heart, right? Our heart pumps blood and it goes through all of our arteries, right? And that's how, our blood gets to our feet, and it's how it gets to our fingers, how it gets to our spleen. How does the blood get back? Mo, Jen, do you guys know?
Your heart pumps it back?
It doesn't. So the heart pumps the blood into the arteries. The arteries become capillaries, and then deoxygenated blood is reabsorbed through the veins. But what pushes blood in the veins?
Biology, high school biology.
Yes. It's a long time ago. So what actually happens is your heart isn't pumping anymore. There's no pressure in your veins. That's why you take blood from your veins and not from an artery, because there's no pressure there. It's your Yes, Jen. Yes, Jen. 100%. Yes, Jen got it. Gold star for Jen. So the veins they go through your muscles. And they go through your legs, and when you move and contract, you are squishing your veins and you are pushing the blood back to your heart. So movement is so important. This is why when people are in hospital for too long, they're in hospital beds for a very long time, their blood will kind of coagulate and they'll get clots and they'll get deep vein thromboses, and that's why it's so important to be moving. So you can be active. Being active has a health benefit. Play sports, go for a run, go to the gym. That will decrease your risk of cancer. But if you just stayed in bed for every other moment of your time where you weren't in the gym, that would increase your risk of cancer. So the best thing I say for that is take breaks, get up from if you're working at a desk, which a lot of us are now because we're working from home with COVID, Make sure you're every hour or so you're getting up, you're walking around, you're doing some stretches. Just don't stay seated all day long. All right, and you'll decrease your risk of cancer just that way. And these things are multiplied through our life. Like even when we talk about diet and we talk about weight, these are things that are impacted through our entire life. So if you start good habits when you're younger, that will have a huge impact on your cancer risk over in your entire life. But also, like I've said with these two things, also cardiovascular risk and diabetes too. So, yeah.
Or to sum this all up, as Dan of Action says, motion is lotion, Bubby.
Yeah. Motion is lotion. Nice.
I think it's problematic in our society too. We're very sedentary in North America, anyways. Office culture, office work, and then binging, Netflix binging,
Driving, stuck in traffic.
Yeah, driving, long commutes for sure. Someone just said in the chat that apparently someone had a DVT on the Jeopardy Tournament of Champions, so I should check that out at some point. Thanks for that. Oh, thank you, Crazy Plant Lady. Really appreciate that donation. It's a great name. It's a great name. Some people have cats. Some people have what's a good plant? A ficus? Is that a plant?
Pothos.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Speaking of crazy plant ladies, do you want to talk about the songs?
Yes, tell us about the songs, Mo.
Okay, let me leave the chat and go to my list because I have a terrible memory, everybody.
I have the list if you want. I came prepared.
I have. Okay, burn. I have prepared. I just have to talk.
I know. Okay, Mo, set us up. What are you playing for us today?
All right, we've got 5 songs that you can vote for to hear me play. We've got Showing Some Canadian Pride, Ironic by Alanis Morissette, Waterfalls by TLC, What I Got by Sublime, the PG version, Jolene by Dolly Parton, Stronger Than Me by Amy Winehouse. Actually, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs. This is 6 songs. Or Big Yellow Taxi by Joni Mitchell. Just put your song choice in the chat.
We did have a couple donations.
I'd
Shout
like
out
to go too.
Waterfalls. I saw Waterfalls is popular right now.
I'll translate that to Mo because I don't think she can hear you. By the way, Mo is also Sandra. I call her Mo, so if you're wondering.
Oh yeah.
I know, I forget that sometimes. So Sandra, people have been voting in the chat for Waterfalls. So now that you guys can see the chat, you can kind of see people who've been donating. Looks like Waterfalls is in the lead. Anyway, back to my analogy about partying.
Sorry.
So let's say you had like a code word, right, or a handshake. This is actually how your immune cells can tell that your own cells are your own cells, that they're good people, that they're like they should be there. Because you will get mutations with time. So one of the things that, we kind of talk about is cancer is this a disease of the elderly, right? So like anyone can get cancer, and I want to very be specific that people who are 30 years old can get stage 4 breast cancer, and that is 100% true. It's not true. That is definitely true. But generally speaking, it's a disease of the elderly. One of the reasons why cancer incidence is actually so much higher today than it was, say, 30 years ago is not because, yes, environmental impacts for sure, but it's not because of some conspiracy theory or the government's putting something in your food. It's because we are living longer. The life expectancy since the 1970s has increased. And this is a disease that definitely disproportionately affects the elderly because the longer you live, the more mutations you will accumulate over time. And if you get the right combination of mutations, that's how a cancer and a tumor can form. So it's kind of important to kind of keep that in mind. So one of the things that we talk about here is that how does the immune system know that something's different? Because you don't want to kill every cell that has one mutation, because most mutations are harmless. So if your eye had one mutation, you wouldn't want like a whole immune response and you go blind. That'd be bad for you, evolutionary speaking. So your cells have like secret handshakes where they know a secret handshake. So a T cell might come up to one of these cells with a mutation and be like, hey, you look a little different. I think I should kill you. But it's like, nah, we're good, bro. Blow it up. And he's like, the handshake. And
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Good Evening One just donated $100 and put us over the $5,000 mark, guys. So thank you so much. That's a milestone right there. I just wanted to shout that out real quick.
That's amazing. Thank you for shouting that out. We are now over the $5,000 mark thanks to that $100 donation. Absolutely amazing. We got some more votes for Jolene as well in there. I'm sure you guys are seeing it in the chat as well. Absolutely amazing. Some more wonderful, some more big yellow taxi votes. Oh, wow. This is going to be closer than last year for sure on these votes. Thank you guys so much.
Right? Like, the votes are coming with donations too? Is that right? Because we can't see the donations on our end, right? So, okay.
Yes,
so
as long as they make a comment and put it on there.
Can I ask a question about cell mutation?
Yes.
Do we know why cells mutate? Is there a way to stop it? I mean, this is a very simplistic question.
I was thinking the same thing, actually.
Great questions. See, this is the kind of thing where I just take it for granted, right? So thank you for asking those questions, guys. Yeah, so one of the major ways is that every time your cells replicate, there is a chance that the DNA doesn't get copied perfectly and errors can be introduced. Now, you have enzymes and proteins that are supposed to correct errors, but they're not perfect. So one of the reasons why bacteria mutate so high is that they have a very, very poor DNA repair pathway. So their mutations don't get fixed as much. So that's why there's a high mutation burden in bacteria and they become antibiotic resistant quickly. But in our cells, we do have a good DNA repair mechanism, but it's not perfect. And so every time our cells replicate, there is a chance that we will have errors in the replication process. The new daughter cells might not have the same DNA. There could be a base mutation, something could get deleted. And you accumulate more as you age. But other things can induce DNA damage as well. So every time your DNA is damaged, your cells have to repair it, and they might not repair it properly. A great example of this with cancer is the sun, UV. So every time you get a sunburn, you are increasing your chances of melanoma. The UV radiation breaks the DNA strands in your DNA, and if you can't reconnect those properly, you'll get a mutation. Now, again, one mutation, not going to give you cancer, but a lifetime of exposure to UV accumulates in more and more mutations. Sandra, I love that you raised your hand. You can just chime in.
Very Canadian, we're polite. Well, there's another question, but I want to shut up my neck first. My questions might be also very simplistic. So, is mutation something that is inevitable? Is it something that is associated with aging? Or I mean, similar to Jen's question, like, if we found a way, say, in the future to stop mutation, would that be detrimental, or would that prevent, like, advancing, or your body, like, evolving, or healing, or something like that? That's my question, but there's another question from Arcade Lounge that says, it's kind of similar, is accumulated mutation irreversible?
Both are good questions. So to Sandra's first question, yeah, so most of them are going to be lifetime-based stuff that you're going to accumulate. It is a part of the aging process. And there's lots of people who are working on anti-aging technologies. It's kind of like the thing that billionaires are like spending because they don't want to die. It's like, how do we stop ourselves from aging? And so part of that is, can we get a perfect kind of DNA replication? Is there a way to stop these mutations? As for the evolutionary kind of point of view, if an individual kind of stopped having mutations, it wouldn't have any dampening on our evolution as a species, because any traits you pick up in your what we call somatic cells. Somatic cells are every cell in your body that aren't your sex genes, your gametes, your eggs, or your sperm. All those cells, none of that gets passed on, right? So the real genetic variation happens in recombination when we have mating occurring, right? It's not because I get a sunburn, right? So if it's like the same way, if I work out and get lots of muscles, I can't pass my muscles on to my kids. My kids won't have a lot of muscles. That's not how it works. So in that regard, hopefully that answered your question a little bit. To answer the question from the chat, is accumulated mutation irreversible? Naturally, yes. You can't reverse it naturally. People are working on this kind of technology, gene therapy. You could theoretically, especially in women, you could take a gamete, one of their eggs, which is basically frozen in time for when they're a fetus. Their cells replicate to the second meiosis phase, and they're just stuck there. So every egg a woman has for when she's a fetus is all her eggs she has for her life. And those cells are just as they were then. And there's no metabolic activity happening in those. So if you took one of those eggs, the DNA in there would theoretically be as close to their like original DNA as you can imagine, except that it's haploid. But I won't get into haploid and diploid right now. You could then therefore re-replicate and re-scaffold original DNA and replicate what it would have been like without those mutations. That being said, there are cells in your body that lose DNA for good reason. So coming back to immune system, I'm a tumor immunologist. I like to bring it back, stay on topic. Your immune cells, one of the reasons why your B cells are able to produce so many trillions of types of antibodies is because they cut out bits of their DNA and recombine them randomly. And these random recombinations is what allows them to generate almost an infinite amount of different types of antibodies to try to match and identify anything foreign. And so you wouldn't want your B cells to revert back and lose those abilities, right? So it is tissue specific. Hopefully that answered. Maybe it didn't. Okay, I'm not going to read that one out loud. Anyway.
I think it's a question that we skipped over.
Okay, read it.
Just because I saw you saw the one that you're not going to read out loud. There's one above that. It's why from Cyene. C-Y-E-N-E. Why are they called daughter cells and not... Oh, wait, never mind. That's the one you were talking about, wasn't it? Will melanoma most likely happen when sunburn occurs, or does it affect skin cells elsewhere?
Most likely where the sunburn occurs, especially if you're getting it sunburn in the same spot. If you're always forgetting to put sunscreen on your ears, for example. That's how my dad got skin cancer on his ears. He loves being on the boat. He loves being on the water. The water reflects all the sun rays. He'd put sunscreen on his face. He'd forget his ears. And that's kind of how that happened. That being said, you're always going to get some background UV radiation, right? And that will cause some mutations as well. So it's not always where you get sunburns, but it can definitely be increased by getting sunburns. There's always background radiation that's going to give cancer. That's one of the things they use to limit how many times astronauts can be in space. I think it's like NASA's threshold is they can't increase their risk of background radiation higher than like 3 or 33. There's a 3 in there, % chance of getting cancer risk based on compared to the background radiation of being on Earth. So we'll swing back around to our story. So Jen's got this big party. These cancer cells, these cells, they're not cancer cells, they're just cells. They've accumulated mutations. They look a little different, but they're still cool. They're still doing their job. The pancreas cell is still secreting insulin. You don't want to attack that cell. If you do, that is literally type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. When your immune system attacks it, you don't want that to happen. Don't worry. Those cells got that secret handshake. You're good to go. Tumor cells evade the immune system with the same way. Tumor cells can be, there's 3 E's kind of the immune process of tumor formation. You have this idea of elimination. The immune system can eliminate the tumor. You have an equilibrium state where the immune system is killing the tumor cells at the same rate they're replicating. And then you have this escape state. And this is basically where the immune system is no longer able to kill the cancer cells. And the reason is the T cells can see that they're different, but they have that handshake. They're like, hey, buddy, I'm one of you. Don't kill me. Like, all right. And then they go and, smash some windows and go do some bad things. Maybe they storm the Capitol or something. I don't know. Don't want to get political. So these are bad characters, but our T cells, our police, our immune system just can't do anything about it because they look like us. So what a type of immunotherapy does, this is called checkpoint blockade immunotherapy. This is very, very popular in solid tumors right now, having great responses in melanoma and some breast cancers and some other cancers, is it basically chops off the hands of the cells. And now they can't do the secret handshake. So now the T cells are like, hey, you look different, I'm going to kill you. And the tumor's like, no, I know the handshake. And he's like, that's not the handshake. And then stabby, and they kill the tumor cells. And that's a really new, exciting way too. So I would say the two most exciting immunotherapies in my mind for pushing how far we're going with treating cancer. It's definitely going to be CAR T cell, which is what I'm doing with my melanoma and meso and stuff, and checkpoint blockade, and combinations of checkpoint blockade, because there's different handshakes and different therapies cut off different arms.
We have another question.
Wes, you mentioned Crazy Plant Lady, but also want to shout out
Arcade Lounge.
Big D and Julio, both giving $25 each. Thank you guys so much. Means the world.
Thank you guys for donating. Really appreciate it. Sorry I haven't been shouting out all the donations. So glad you guys are over there shouting those out that I've been missing. I get really passionate about cancer, if you can't tell. All right, Mo, back to you.
Sorry, I can't. I can never tell when you're talking to somebody else, and hope I'm not talking over anybody. If I am, I apologize. But another question from Arcade Lounge, who says, "Sorry, last question," and I feel like you shouldn't apologize. If you could theoretically avoid mutations, would you still have aging problems related to telomere shortening, etc., and find cancer trouble?
So first, yeah, don't apologize for questions. Keep asking questions. I'm loving them. So you would still have some aging problems. So there are certain cells in your body that don't really replicate or replicate or repair very well. So damage to them that is not DNA damage will take its toll on those kind of tissues and those kind of cells. And so, I mean, there's a reason why we have hip replacement, for example. And hip replacement sounds like it's like, oh, the joint wore out, osteoporosis, the bone went away. Hip replacements save lives. This comes back to the thing where you're not being able to move. If you are just if you have a broken hip and you can't get out of bed, you increase the chance of those clots. That's stroke, that's heart attacks, that's death. Hip replacements save lives. So just stopping mutations wouldn't stop aging, unfortunately. So you still would have aging and you still would get some organ failure. As for the telomere length issue, yes, to an extent, different cells will reach an endpoint where they can no longer extend their telomeres. I'm not going to explain what telomeres are because you clearly know, and I won't bore everybody else. But not being able to have active telomerase, which extends your telomeres, and there's also what's called, you can Google this, you might find this really interesting if you don't already know, it's the alternative telomere lengthening process. It has nothing to do with telomerase, but it's another way your cells can lengthen their telomeres. People generally associate these traits with cancer, but they are just a natural process. So your cells will eventually reach a point where they'll start losing genetic material, which can then cause, we think about immortality with telomeres and tumors being immortal, but you start losing important genes that are involved in cell regulation when you lose your telomeres. That can also be an incidence for cancer. So hopefully that was just an answer just for you, because it sounds like you know exactly what you're talking about. So hopefully that was insightful. Oh, Nightbot has a link. I'm gonna shout my link out. So Mostly Science was my old podcast, mostlyscience.com. I'm no longer doing that. We're only at Tumor Talk now. So youtube.com/Tumor Talk, or find us on facebook.com/Tumor Talk. Tumor spelled the American way. By all means, go check out my Tumor Talk links. The old Mostly Silent podcast is still up there for Dan. It's still there. Like, people can watch it. I still pay for the hosting at mostlyscience.com. But they're old. Still fun though, if you want to hear, me blabble on about science.
Ooh, $50 donation coming in.
Nice.
Ship-shaped panda, $50.
Thank you, Panda. Thank you for $50. And this all helps. So like the cancer, so I don't receive any money from the Cancer Research Institute. So this is completely, there's no conflict of interest here. But they do fund people like me and their research. So if you go to their website and you look under the scientists who get their funding, there's people who are same spot in their careers as me, doing the similar kind of work that I'm doing in different types of cancers with slightly different stuff. CAR therapy, obviously at the University of Pennsylvania, we kind of invented the field. So we're kind of, not to toot our own horn, kind of the best in the world. Carl June kind of really developed this kind of therapy. So that's why we focus on that here. But there's other types, people who are doing those vaccines I was talking about. I don't do a lot of vaccine work, but there's people who are leaders in the world doing work on that as well. And here's a fun little tidbit, fun fact for you. So the COVID vaccine, two of them anyway, Pfizer and Moderna, those are RNA-based vaccines. People are always like, oh, it was so rushed. It came out of nowhere. We got these vaccines in 10 months. That's unheard of. And it's like, well, actually, that technology, that RNA-based vaccine technology has been in the works for decades for other diseases. So really hard to treat diseases. HIV, tuberculosis, fun fact, not so fun. Tuberculosis is the number one cause of death from communicable and transmissible diseases worldwide, by the way. People always forget that because it doesn't really affect a lot of North Americans, but TB is very, very deadly and around the world. And also cancers. glioblastoma multiforme. In 2018, I think 5 of the existing RNA vaccine clinical trials, phase 1 and 2, were for glioblastoma multiforme, type of brain cancer. So I mean, this technology was built on infectious disease and cancer technology, and then COVID came, and those tools were already there. That's why we were able to do it so quickly. It's because the tools were already there. We didn't have to invent it from scratch. Fun little fact.
Did you want to do a quick check on the song choice?
Yeah.
In the chat, I know it was kind of neck and neck between Waterfalls and Jolene, if I'm being honest.
Waterfalls and Jolene, neck and neck.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken.
I'm a little bit biased, but I've heard Mo sing Jolene before, and it's good.
I bet it's amazing.
It's so good.
It's gotta be.
Mo's got so much soul. You have no idea.
I'm gonna do a quick count in the chat.
Have you ever heard? This is not a sciencey thing. It's just an interesting little. Somebody took Jolene and slowed it down, so the vocals are like I can't remember the speed, but they slowed the speed down, and it's almost like Nina Simone singing Jolene.
Ooh. Well, Wes, it looks like we've got 5 in the chat for Jolene, plus one of the donos, so 6 for Jolene and 4 for Waterfalls. So it looks like it might be Jolene, man.
More money though.
Oh, it looks like it's going for Jolene. All right, let's answer one more question and then jump to Jolene. How about that? You guys have a few more minutes to change this vote. All right. Does someone want to read out Christine's question?
I will. How many cancers are no longer death sentences since we discovered cancer?
Fantastic question. This is a great question to end it on because I think it highlights the H that I want to change of this conversation. Curing cancer, all the stuff we're doing, it's not hubris. It is hope. It really is within our grasp. It really is hope. And a lot of cancers are no longer death sentences. And to be fair, the Egyptians are the first ones who found cancer. Ancient Egyptians were the first ones to document cancer. They called it the uncurable illness. Bone and breast cancer, the ancient Egyptians discovered first. It was the Greeks that gave it the name. The ancient Greeks called it cancer, and that's the name it still has today because it looked like a little crab. But we've known about cancer for a very, very, very long time. And a lot of cancers are no longer really are death sentences. So stage 0 and stage 1 breast cancer, for example, 5-year survival rate, 99%. We're talking about changes within some leukemias. 20 years ago, some of these leukemias, 30% 5-year survival rate. New targeted therapies, 70% now. We've gone from 30 to 70% survival. A lot of cancers are no longer immediate death sentences. The big C, there's life after cancer. Now, treatment is rough. Cancer is terrible. Cancer is not light. It is life-changing. But there is life after cancer. And hopefully I've taken that away. So I think what we got now here, we haven't seen, another Waterfalls vote, but I see another Jolene vote. So I think...
Somebody, RK Lounge said Jolene or I quit my job.
All right, I think we're going to go Jolene. I'm going to give it away to Mo. And take it away, Mo. I'm going to mute myself so my tapping doesn't do anything.
Thanks everybody that donated. I'm sorry for whoever donated for other songs, but this is a really good song, so I hope you enjoy it regardless. My song too. Here you go. Thanks Wes for putting this together. Thanks for everybody putting this together. People that I don't know, I only know Wes, but everybody that put this together. And thank you to everybody who donated. Jolie, and thanks to Dolly Parton for donating all that money to COVID vaccine research and for writing this song. Jolene, Jolene, Jolene. Well, I'm begging of you, please don't take me. Jolene, Jolene, Jolene. Please don't take honestly understand. You could easily take my man, but you don't know what it means to me, Jolene. Jolene. I am begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene. Please don't take him just because you can. Choice, man, but I could never love again. No, he's the only one for me. Yes, I have to have this talk with you. My happiness depends on you, and whatever you decide to do, Jolene. Oh, Jolene. Please don't take my man. Jolene. Please don't take it just because you can. Please don't take him even though you can. Please don't take him even though you can. Jolene. Jolene wins out. Thanks, guys.
That was awesome.
It's amazing.
Awesome. You were right,
Thank
Wes.
you.
She straight up killed
Thanks to
that.
everybody who donated.
So,
She definitely killed it. Definitely killed. She always does. She always does. I'll definitely, if you guys come to any of my Tumor Talk channels, I'll make sure there's links to Sandra's stuff everywhere. Or you know what? I'll come back later tonight and I'll spam it in the chat.
Yeah. Also, why don't you tell her?
It's coming out someday. I don't know when yet, but it's coming up. It's filmed already.
That's awesome. Wes, since we're wrapping up,
Okay,
man, with your
Nathan and
segment,
Brendan,
why don't you
I'm
tell
sorry.
everybody where
I'm on
they
my
need to go,
phone
where they
and
can
I'm away
find you,
from
plug all
everything,
your
so
stuff,
no one
man.
can. There's no
Yeah, for
problem.
sure. If I leave this green room while people are talking, is that going to kick me out of here? Hope not. All right,
So.
cool. I'm leaving the green room just so I don't have like 100 voices in my ear. Hopefully I'm still live. Yes.
Yeah, you're here.
So follow us on Tumor Talk, youtube.com/Tumor Talk, and join our community at facebook.com/Tumor Talk. I always answer questions. It's a friendly community. We're not being paid. We're not here to sell you anything. I don't have a supplement for you to buy. I don't have a diet book for you to buy. It's just evidence-based medicine to help everyone's lives be better. So hopefully you learned something today, and thank you all so much for donating. I can't believe how much you've donated. Watching that bar move, holy crap, holy darn. I shouldn't swear. I don't want to demonetize you or something.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. So much for your donations and your generosity to help bring us closer to finding a cure for cancer.
Absolutely, man, and thank you for coming back again this year. It was awesome.
Pure pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. See you guys.
I appreciate it, brother. Thanks.